Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're here at City Hall for a meeting of the City Street and Safety Advisory Committee. We'll start off with call to order and roll call. Collins?
Oh, yeah, Collins Roth, present.
Kathy Osterholm, present.
Steve Carson, present.
Patricia Davis, present.
Mark Saunders, present.
Cliff Hilderly, present.
Dave Diefendorfer, present.
Melissa Riesco, present.
And we have Mike Azuzzi is not with us yet, but hopefully he will still be here. Approval of minutes. We've had reviewed the minutes. Thank you, Patricia, from February 12th, 2026. Are there any questions about the minutes? Okay, we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So approved. Correspondence, we have received a letter from Hoyt Decker. I assume everybody's had a time to take a look at that. Old business, we're going to talk about, the main topic of the day is our discussion in regard to the proposal going to the Board of Commissioners. And just so that you remember our procedure, it's our job to come up with workable solutions to situations that have already been pre-approved by the Board of Commissioners for us to discuss. And of course, bicycle safety is one of those. In the last meeting and a half actually, because we started 2 meetings ago, we talked about revising the current and coming up with some new regulations, discussions, and suggestions. Some of them are more suggestions than regulations regarding bicycle safety and all that involves. We had talked about everything from electrical bikes to batteries to bike pathways. And today I've put together, and I think everybody has a copy of our latest revised draft of what we would like to bring to the commissioners. What I would like to do today is go over it literally line by line to make sure that this does encompass everybody's thoughts and consensus. Oh, there's Mike. Thank you. Let the record show we are a full contingent today. Well, you know, you did, and I apologize. I forgot you did. You did tell me that. Absolutely, you did. At any rate, we just started, and we're just about ready to go over the revised draft. If anybody has a suggestion as we go, pipe up, don't be quiet. I may not see your hands, or just say something, and we can certainly revise it as we proceed. You all set? Does everybody have a copy? Does anyone need a copy? No, you don't have.
I gave him mine.
You have. So everybody does have a copy then.
sharing.
I do not have, I'm happy to read it off the screen, though.
I
so.
can read it off the screen, too.
Well, I can just, Marco, could you make us a copy real quick?
There's no need on my account.
No?
Yeah, I'm very happy.
You're
to.
fine too? Okay. All right. Thank you, though. Thank you now, Marco. Okay. We would propose Board of Commissioners adopt the following measures regarding bicycles and bike safety in Rehoboth Beach. 1. Oh, and by the way, before I start, I just want to make a note that Mike and Collins are going to make the presentation prior to this discussion, so that at this point, the commissioners would already have seen our presentation, our PowerPoint. 1, budget and move forward on additional signage noting sidewalk prohibitions wherever applicable, especially Rehoboth Avenue and the boardwalk. Signage should conform to Del code requirements. Arrow signs should direct bicycles to bike parking in our recommended fix-it stations. Signage about the boardwalk should be seen before you are on the boardwalk. QR codes should be added to the signage with bicycle advisory information. Everybody good on that? Can I just add, the reason several people had come to me after our last meeting and said the problem with the signage currently on the boardwalk is you don't see it till you're already on the boardwalk because it's on the other side of the boardwalk. So there's nothing to stop you before you go on the boardwalk. So you've already broken the law before you know it. So that's why we're suggesting that.
And you've probably ridden on the sidewalk to get there.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
again,
Absolutely.
it all
There's no other
links-
way.
And then all the bike parking is on the boardwalk where you're not supposed to have
Absolutely.
your bike, so.
Absolutely. So we're hoping that the signs, at least the bicycle signs, can be moved to a designated spot prior to actually being on the boardwalk.
Can I have one of those?
I don't have another one.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
I can ask Mark to make you a copy.
No problem.
Budget for and build several fix-it stations, which would include pumps, bike network information, and locking facilities. These stations might be combined with additional bike parking. Committee members are willing to work with staff to locate spots along the proposed bike pathway for these stations.
Mark, I have one little caveat with this. The fix-it stations should not allow locking your bike at that station. The point of the station is access to everyone. So you don't want the station to be a place where people are going to park their bikes.
Okay, good point.
Does that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard in the design of them, that you would have a rack nearby.
Right, but I'm just saying the way that this.
Right. Kathy, can I add the word separate? And they are recommended separate fix-it
Yes.
stations?
Yeah, or separate locking facilities.
Well,
We want the locking to be away from the fix-it
right.
station.
So we say arrow signs should direct bicycles to bike parking, locking, and a separate fix-it stations. Is that would that do it?
Okay, I was on number 2, budget and build for several fix-it
Oh,
stations, which would include pumps, bike network information. Stop.
right, I gotcha.
Stop after information. Don't include locking facilities.
Okay.
If you just
take that out.
eliminate in locking facilities, that takes that
My yellow pen.
problem out of there.
And should we be recommending how many and where they should be, or is that a different discussion?
Well,
I think that should be, in my view, different. I said that to Mr. Decker, who wrote the letter, who
Another
went
time?
into great detail, that's detail. Let's get
Okay.
the concept approved, and then the city staff has to tell us
and we
what
did.
works,
And we did say that we're going to poke our nose into where they go earlier on. We said that members of this committee would assist the city in deciding where they go.
Okay.
So we are sort of making note that we're going to be involved, so.
Mark, can we add in here anywhere that says public-private funding? Meaning, there may be some bike shops, there may be some businesses that say, you know what, I'd like to sponsor that, fix it. So instead of it being a budget that comes directly out of the city, maybe it's a combined budget if they're willing to find people that are willing to sponsor them.
How would we add that on? Would we say that we're recommending the city consider allowing sponsorship?
You could say-
My only concern with that is, I'm kind of with Colin's previous statement. Let's put the big package in and then work on the details when we know what the big package will give us to work with.
My only concern is after sitting through the budget meeting, that if we have something in here that says budget and increase the budget, I'm wondering if it wouldn't get more kickback if we didn't say, public-private project.
Well,
That's the only reason.
Could I suggest perhaps we just add at the very end?
That's exactly what I was saying,
point
number
at the end,
6.
Funding. Not even within this, but a new one at the bottom saying funding, consider innovative public-private partnerships.
Perfect.
State funding
right.
and other sources.
I got consider after that.
Consider, innovative public-private partnerships, state funding, and other potential sources of funding, something like that. Because we could probably get state grants for some of this, yeah.
Can I ask for a clarification? This bike pathway is for the city of Rehoboth only, correct? Okay.
So I've considered innovative public-private partnership, grants and
Possible state.
sponsorships.
And state funding,
State grant, okay.
Gotta get
State grants and private sponsorships. Did you get it all? It's more
I'll get
important
it in
than
the
you do.
notes. I'll get it in
It's
the
more
notes.
important than you do. All right, that'll be number 7 then.
One question, Mark? Could you just not say possible public-private partnerships? Not get into the state, just public-private? Everybody
I'm
knows
sorry,
what that
what
is.
do you want me to take out?
Well, when you were just talking about it,
Public,
it's just
private.
wordsmithing, but it's, could you say possible public-private sponsorship? That's the general term, I believe.
Okay, what I currently have is public, private, partnerships, state grants, and sponsorships. So, is that okay?
That's redundant.
Okay, what part should I take out?
Public-private includes state funding.
Oh, I get you, okay.
Yeah,
All right?
just simple.
I think the point is non-city budget,
Yeah, all right.
additions to the city budget.
All right, we're good. Number 3, adopt a Rehoboth Beach City bike network system as per the recommended route attached by map. Now, let me just stop there. Should that be pathway, Collins?
The important thing for me is we're not saying bike lane. Like,
Okay.
I don't want to imply that at this stage, we're trying to take road away from cars and parking.
That's fine. I didn't know if we wanted to
No.
change it.
so
We use
that's
pathway
That's
later
the critical
on.
element for me is let's start without, a land grab. Maybe we'll get to that one day, but
This should include, I'm sorry, Kathy?
That's okay. Adopt a suggested Rehoboth Beach City Bike Network system. And the only reason I'm adding suggested is because we're not going to enforce if you don't use the path. The path is for a suggestion.
Okay, so suggested instead of recommended.
No, I'm saying adopt a, after the word a,
Right.
put suggested,
Okay, gotcha.
per the recommended route, because the route is what we would hope people would use, but they're not going to be penalized if they
Right,
choose
of
not
course.
to use the route.
That's back in, okay. This should include a serious discussion with DelDOT about moving the crosswalk at Rehoboth Avenue Circle further west near the egg location for both bikes and pedestrians. Now, somebody had a really good idea, and I think it was Dave about this. Do you want to
Yeah, thank you.
tell him your idea?
So I agree with everything in this except this. I just don't want to see another crosswalk taken away. That crosswalk between Grove Street, where people come down Grove Street on the sidewalk, zip across and go to Grove Park and the Royal Farms, is a highly used crosswalk by people. And I think crosswalks tend to slow cars down. I know they're dangerous because it's improper signage. This is my opinion. And what the mayor had sent, what you had sent out, what the mayor, that link today, that actually had suggested adding more crosswalks to Rehoboth Avenue. I just disagree with taking that crosswalk away because people are going to cross that street coming out of Egg right to Grove Street. I agree with Colin trying to get the bikes the other way, but if we add one, I don't think you're losing anything.
So in a nutshell, you're suggesting that we add one, just don't subtract the old one, leave the old one there too? Correct. That's correct. Add the second. Mike?
The idea behind this was also tied into some of the safety data and some of the accident data that we have that has been presented, that is either number 2 or number 1, most accidents occur right at that crosswalk. So if you think about that crosswalk, when I'm coming, leaving Rehoboth Beach, I hit the first crosswalk there. I then have to watch for that. I then have to watch to get into the circle. I then have to watch for traffic merging to my right to come into the circle. And then I have to look up and see if a pedestrian is actually in the crosswalk. It's a disaster, right? And so what happens there inevitably is I'm coming into that circle, I look up, I see somebody, I jam on my brakes, and someone behind me hits me. So the idea behind it was not only tying it into a natural area for the bike path, because that's where the path actually comes into the city, but also elongating that area for traffic purposes to try to avoid traffic accidents that occur there. So while I agree asking someone to walk another 25 yards might be a challenge, I think from a safety standpoint, it makes more sense because it allows drivers the chance to look up and actually see a pedestrian instead of the 7 other things they're trying to look for. So that was our thought process to tie the two together.
Mike, I think along with that, that traffic circle has from day one always had a line of sight problem. And that very nice lighthouse thing in there and all of the shrubbery and the trees simply compounds that problem, making, the sidewalk placement that much more hazardous.
The Del Dot gentleman agreed with you completely. He said you should always be able to see across a circle.
And besides, that circle is, from what I read in the Highway Transportation Manual, is the minimum radius for a traffic circle that you can have, making it, the worst imaginable.
Mike, wouldn't you have the same problem going east on Rehoboth Avenue?
So yes, theoretically, the idea, I think, is that
On the other side of the circle I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
people seem, if you look at where that traffic accidents were, and I don't know if people were in a hurry to get out of town, and they're all leaving town as soon as the rain comes or the sun goes down, and they're not as a big a hurry coming into town, it seems. I don't know if that's why it's less on one side versus the other, but yes, you have basically the same situation there. I mean, it just seems odd to have crosswalks in a traffic circle, right? Because like I said, those traffic circles are hectic as it is. But I understand why they're there and they're necessary, but it just seems like moving that one would help.
I have a question. Would it not be prudent for us to make a recommendation to add a crosswalk at the Egg crosswalk, and then to let Del Dot work with us? Because if their requirements are that if you put a crosswalk on one side of a circle, you must have a crosswalk on the other, there might be requirements that we're not even aware of. So rather than even dealing with this right now, since we don't know Del Dot's stand, if we just change the word moving and change it to adding, then once we work with Del Dot, we can figure out the logistics.
And the early part of that sentence says have a serious discussion with Del Dot. So we've already, we've
mean-
already admitted we're
And,
going to be
the key here is,
discussing with
is
Del
to
Dot.
get the commissioners to allow us, along with, a few of us and maybe a few of them, whatever the case is, to get that meeting with Del Dot. Because we can't do any of this without Del Dot approving it. So the whole gist of this is get us a meeting with Del Dot.
I mean, that's my point with, rather than us discuss where the crosswalk should be, we may not have a choice. So we might as well just recommend adding one instead of dealing
of
with
course,
what to move.
I think that's correct, and I agree with Mike, I think properly said how we came up with this, but from an advocacy point of view, I also thought that moving that would make this something that somebody who only drove might be supportive of by moving it, because it does take away this pressure point. And the difference between the east and the west, one of them I think is the slip lane that comes in from Columbia or whatever it is there. I think it does make that more complicated there.
But it's interesting that the current one is used by people that are coming up Grove Street. They're coming up from my neighborhood, from Country Club, and they immediately cross there to go into the park, particularly on days when there's the market and so forth. So, if it were up to me, I think two would be better than one.
Well, let me just say, the concept of moving it was to address the issue of, the challenge of navigating the traffic circle and then immediately being confronted with a crosswalk
As a driver.
as a driver.
Right, yeah.
Now, you can take the approach in terms of moving the crosswalk, which they've done in Dewey, which is to place barriers in the median strip so people can't cross the street except at the crosswalk. That would facilitate the moving, with all due respect, eliminate the need for an addition, because I don't think the addition solves the fundamental problem of drivers navigating the traffic circle with the.
I have a feeling we're going to be told by Del Dot with this, because I think the other thing in my mind was having two crosswalks that close together, Del Dot probably won't like. Because the idea that they're stopping there and stopping here. So again, I think the right way to put it is let's have a conversation with Del Dot and consider the best alternative.
Keeping in mind that this is all about bicycles, and the bicycle path is at the newly proposed, more western, you go right across the street from the Egg, and that's the bike path right there. So from a bicycle point of view, the newly proposed one makes more sense. But I think as a pedestrian that lives in Country Club and crosses that street, I'd want the lower one also, but we'll see what DelDOT says.
This is not the first time that it has been suggested that there be a crosswalk at Canal Street. So just as a reference, when we discussed the bike path years ago now, the recommendation was for a crosswalk at Canal Street. But because at that time, the whole circle concept was a new part of DelDOT's whole renovation of Rehoboth Avenue, it was denied. So if we approach it again with what we have now, then there's a possibility DelDOT will look at it a little bit differently. So, but this is not
I
the
wonder if
first.
the bicycle path was in then.
The bicycle path was being created. So what basically happened when the original design of the bicycle path, I worked with DelDOT through that whole process. And when it was originally being created, there was a recommendation to take bikes from the path at Grove Park straight across to Canal Street. But at that time, DelDOT denied that because their concept at that time was in order for the traffic circle to work efficiently, you could not stop traffic for crosswalks, because then that would mess up the flow of the traffic. Now, that was, 2012, 2013, I don't even remember what year we did all this. But the bottom line of it is, it's not a new recommendation to DelDOT. We need to have a conversation with DelDOT because they will control what happens on Rehoboth Avenue.
Hopefully they'll pay for some of it.
And they did that before. So they have helped us financially with other parts of this project.
Then I think, and this is the sentences I have it, and I think this should be agreeable. This should include a serious discussion with DelDOT about adding crosswalk at the Rehoboth Avenue Circle further west near the egg location. Just using the word serious discussion with DelDOT about adding an additional crosswalk. And then we'll see what they say. Because what we're really after is the Board of Commissioners giving us the authority to do that, to have the discussion.
I'd just like to add a concept here. Crosswalks are not for bicycles.
Right. Yeah.
Crosswalks are for pedestrians.
Yeah, but all from perspective, yeah.
No, but this says for both bikes and pedestrians.
Well, they'll both use it.
Bicycles that are being walked by a pedestrian.
Oh, okay. I see your point.
You're supposed to walk your bike.
Walk your bike.
I'm adding the word walking bikes and pedestrians.
Yeah, DelDOT might object to crosswalk and bicycle riders.
Okay, got your point.
I add one more thing, please?
Please.
So with the stuff that you sent this morning, and I don't want to muddy the waters here at all, but do we want to say with not just limiting it to the circle, have them look at possible additional crosswalks on Rehoboth Avenue? Because the one there was recommended, one at 4th Street and some other places, but I guess they didn't do it. Do we want to consider adding additional ones?
This is a proposal for a bike network to
Yeah.
navigate town.
But it's,
So
okay.
I wouldn't want to muddy the waters.
Don't
with
muddy
that.
the waters with
I
that?
think we can muddy the waters when we're back with DelDOT talking about the stop signs.
That's fine.
And so forth. That discussion's still ongoing, too. We can certainly add that then. All right. The object of our Rehoboth Beach Bike Network is to increase safety and encourage bike traffic away from main roads. I think everybody agrees with that. Okay. Number 4, budget for and implement a plan to distribute bike network information, including brochures, maps, websites, QR codes, signs, etc., for visitors, rental agents, websites, and existing kiosks. Basically, it's just advertising what we do. I mean, that should be an easy given for the board to okay.
It's educational.
It's educational, right, yeah. Now, this one's kind of more in-depth, even though it's short. Adopt motorized bike scooter policy. Adopt Delaware basic rules of definition as presented, meaning as presented by Colin and Mike. Add existing RB rules, such as sidewalk and boardwalk rules, to motor-assisted vehicles. Non-pedal bikes and scooters will be considered as mopeds, and motorcycle rules will thus apply. Now, Mike, you spent a lot of time, Collins, explaining the difference, and I think you're going to have to spend the same amount of time explaining the difference to the Board of Commissioners.
I think I would drop the last sentence because it's implied by we're basically adopting Delaware code and then we're tweaking it for Rehoboth reasons. So I don't think the last sentence.
starting at non-pedal?
Non-pedal bikes.
Okay?
Because I think Delaware law is going to tell us that, and Delaware law then gives us options of what we can do about boardwalk and sidewalks and these sorts of things.
Okay.
But I don't think we should try to create a class of vehicle that Delaware law doesn't allow.
I suspect this is where you'll get questions from the commissioners about because we're having that discussion as commissioners. It's like, what's a motorcycle? What's a moped? What's a motorized bicycle? What's electric bicycle?
Yeah.
You know, blah, blah,
But
blah,
but
blah.
all of that's defined under Delaware law.
Yes.
And my understanding as a city, we can't change
Alternate that,
Delaware
right,
law. There's areas where Delaware law says or is adjusted by a city, we can do that, but we can't declare, let's say we decided that we didn't like mopeds at all in Delaware. We can't declare them illegal in the city, that's not allowed.
No, but we can add our own, for instance, the boardwalk, we prohibit bicycles. We can add,
Yes, yeah,
Things
for
like-
for sidewalks and these, yes.
Like I
But
suspect
we're
this is
we're
gonna be
limited, we're limited in where we can tweak it. We can't take a whole class of vehicle.
I get you.
We couldn't outlaw pickup trucks in Rehoboth.
Prepare for questions on this one. All right. Number 6. Hey, Frank. Committee and commissioners will confer with Chief Banks to strengthen law enforcement of all bicycles and assisted bikes in a fair and impartial manner. Well, let me just editorialize here a second. We currently have a request in with Mr. Tedder to set up an appointment to meet with those same people in regard to the calming measures that we've already presented, particularly with rules as enforcement and at what point do we give tickets versus warnings, et cetera. So this conversation could easily be added to that conversation because they're all the same people. So I will, if everybody's okay with it, I'll just ask Mr. Tedder when he's doing the program, if you will, or the agenda for that meeting having to do with speed limits, to add the subject so that we don't have to have a separate meeting.
And I think while you're having that discussion about law enforcement, bicycles, et cetera, you can also throw in scooters and motorized skateboards, et cetera,
Yes.
as an, overall enforcement scheme.
Right. We,
I don't think you need to add it here.
Right, I getcha. All right, and then we have, what is our new number 7, to consider, again, hopefully you have this down
7.
exactly. Yeah, well, we added a 7.
Oh, okay.
Consider innovative public policy partnerships, grants, not state grants, and private sponsorships.
Oh, okay, I had that in
The
a
new
different.
number 7.
Yeah, got it, okay.
I'm gonna read my own writing. All right, any questions, additions, subtractions, final?
There are a couple spelling errors, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, that's okay. This isn't the final one.
That's
Patricia
okay.
here is going to get
Patricia's
me a
gonna
final one.
Thank you, Patricia. Unlike editing while I'm going through with no disrespect to
meticulous.
anybody, so that's okay.
No, this won't be the actual document. I'll rely on Patricia to give me the actual document.
Could I just ask again to repeat number 7, just because I'm trying to process it? Consider
Innovative public and private partnerships, grants, and then I have private sponsorship and private sponsorships. Do I repeat myself? The public,
I
yeah,
think your second private is
yes,
redundant.
it is, right. And
Do we need to
sponsorships.
add just the phrasing for financing, or add something in there to refer it back to the budget? In other words, there's nothing in that sentence that says we're considering those for financing. It says
Oh,
consider
okay.
public-private partnerships, but it doesn't
Considering
say.
financial assistance, is that good? Financial assistance?
Or financial assistance at the end, just something to indicate we're not looking at
Yeah,
those
I getcha.
partnerships to work on the project. We're looking at the partnerships to help fund the project.
I agree. So I think the easiest way would be consider financial assistance by way of,
That's perfect.
okay.
in addition to the city funding. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, once we get things approved, look at all the possibilities.
Okay,
Does that make sense, Patricia?
got it.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that? Any last? All right. I will have this done by tomorrow because we need to have it in 7 days ahead, and the meeting is on the 20th of February. So I'll make sure that Marco or Ann has the agenda report. It's a special form that I have to put it on. So Patricia and I will work on that. So it will be on the next agenda. I've already put in a space to save for us on the next agenda of the 20th. So 20th is also the same day we have the final budget decision. So just, we're in good company. We'll be wearing our flak jackets. All right, discussion of Board of Commissioners' adoption of traffic calming recommendations. I'm happy to report that with one minor change. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want say something? I will happy to give you the floor. Hoyt. On the subject, is there anybody that would like to say anything before we move on to the next subject? Go ahead. You came all this way.
Thank you. Several things. First of all,
Wait, turn on your microphone.
I don't know. Now?
Marco, can you? Here you go. Well, it's only us. Can you just speak loud enough? We'll hear you.
Yeah, so, is that, okay. Thank you. I got 2 or 3 things to say. First of all, I am so glad that there is an official body in the city that is dealing with these issues. Thank you. We've needed it. I mean, Kathy has tried this before, but I'm glad you're doing it. Number 2, I noticed, didn't realize it, that you've got a piece of correspondence in there for me today. And I just want to comment. My apologies to Collins and Mike. I think I may have gotten a little ahead of the game with some of the items that I included in there. I just, take it, with a grain of salt. Okay, I'd like to pick up on something that Dave said, and also a couple of comments Kathy made about the crosswalk. We really need a place, excuse me, I'm speaking as a bicyclist. We really need a place to cross the avenue at the bridge, at Canal Street, at the park. That to me is an imperative. Now, in my paper, I was talking about, aesthetics or whatever, balance, whatever it is. But I think Dave made a good point. I think let's shoot for more crosswalks rather than moving the crosswalks. Okay, I mean that's my basic thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your letter, Hoyt. Thank you. All right. Frank, do you have anything? Or feel free. We're an informal group, so.
Sorry, I was at a falls prevention class at the senior center. So first of all, thank you for your recommendations to the commission on the safety of the streets in Henlopen Avenue. I look forward to seeing those implemented. I'm not sure if you're the group that can address it, but I've been asking for several years for folks to do something about the homeowners who have taken over city right-of-way on Henlopen Avenue and using it for their own personal use. I count there's a minimum of 30 to 40 parking spaces that the city has lost because someone has their grass there, have planted shrubs, have a driveway for 6 cars, parking for 6 cars, and we play by the rules, but there's a lot of people who don't. And I wish someone would address that. I know no one wants to because it's kind of like the third rail, but when I do my walks and I go by, it pisses me off that, we play by the rules and other people get away with having grass where there should be 5 cars allowed to park. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I think that's something that we could add on to future discussions.
Yeah, I think we tried to have that discussion at one point when we were talking about striping the road and everything else. And I believe the concern that came up was surveying these properties that they've never been, and some people move rocks and this and that. I couldn't agree more, because I think a big part of the issue there, as we've talked about, is there's no road. It's almost like whatever someone created, they create on each side of it. So there's no standard, there's no consistency. And I think it's a great point. I think it's something we tried to talk about, and I think a big pushback was there's no record of anything there. If that's the case, obviously we can't do much, but I can't imagine that's the case.
Well, you probably remember, there's a history here. And the history goes back to Sharon Lynn when we were putting the pipe in, the outfall pipe. We tore up Henlopen Avenue, and everybody said, this is the time to regain our right-of-ways and to set the line and make it definitive so that everybody knows exactly where their property line is. And poor Sharon was run out of town on a rail. I mean, nobody on Henlopen Avenue was willing to give up, their little, 4 or 8 feet or shrubbery or gravel or, So Sharon, I think, threw her hands up in disgust. And am I getting that story right, Hoyt?
So I'm just going to add one thing and pick up on. I will not go down that street. I'm sorry, I will not go down that street. It's too damn dangerous, okay? And something should be done. I don't know, it's going to take moving a mountain probably. But, even for cars, the road is too narrow, so.
Can I say?
Can I go back again? I'm sorry. We addressed this many years ago when we looked at the bike path and when Henlopen Avenue was the chosen route, because Columbia is so dangerous. If you're going to go east-west, Henlopen's at least better than Columbia. When we looked at the idea of adding a bike lane to Henlopen Avenue, what we were told was this, that property owners on Henlopen Avenue have varying surveys. The lots are not standard. They do not all end at what would be perceived as the city's property. There are some property owners whose surveys actually indicate that they owned the space, that they have put their perceived plants, driveways, whatever they put on them. So we were told by the city that there was no way that we could take away property that legitimately belonged to homeowners on Rehoboth Avenue and was grandfathered in. So whether or not we want to even look at this, since that's been the history, that's why there's no bike path, that's where there's no, you can't mark the road there, because there are legitimate issues. So whether or not we want to actually tackle this again, since that is a history that's been built into the city, and even referencing the last sewer, the whole system.
Even more recently, when I was on the Board of Adjustment, we had cases where we couldn't determine what the line was, so that we didn't know whether somebody was in violation or not. And we actually had a survey done down by where Harvey Schulman lives in there, and there was a 2-foot difference between the back of his property and the back of the neighbor's property. So, and it's nobody's fault, it's just the way it was, the way they were laid out 100 years ago.
I appreciate it being brought to our attention. I'm just, as a committee member, wondering if this is worth our time, because there is a past history of this and why it is the way it is.
I'm sure Marco's over there just dying to tell me that this isn't on the agenda, so we shouldn't be talking about it. But let's put it on a future agenda to talk about, all right? All right, moving along then. What we can talk about is the discussion, Board of Commissioners adoption of safety calming recommendations. So, and I have them here. Remind you what they were. We asked the commissioners to approve the following: additional street sign signage on heavily traveled streets with special emphasis on State, Henlopen, and Columbia. Install permanent or on a rotating basis speed readers. Those are the signs that tell you how fast you're going on State, Henlopen, and Columbia. And we made note to Mr. Tedder or Mr. Miller that DelDOT recommends friendly signage and will provide assistance in that subject. Paint driveway boxes on State, Henlopen, and Columbia wherever practical. And this comes up to the same subject. I walked down Henlopen quite often. We may not get a single darn box there because it's just, you don't have any idea where a driveway starts and stops. It's so difficult to determine where you'd put that box and not, because some people assume when those boxes are in that it's at their private parking spaces. And when it's a driveway, it is. But if the entire property line is boxed, it's not their private parking spots anymore. So it's difficult. So there may not be very many boxes on Henlopen for that reason, and maybe Columbia. However, wherever it is practical, the city's agreed to do it. Some driveways are not clearly defined and considered non-practical. Paint center strip down, State, Henlopen, and Columbia, that was the easy one. According to the DelDOT folks, if you remember our discussions, that the visual will actually slow people down. Install painted crosswalks on Bayard where none exist and wherever practical, and make the current single direction crosswalks on Bayard to be 2-directional crosswalks. So, those were all approved.
Just as a clarification, Bayard is a state street. It is not a city, it is a city street,
right.
but it is a state-controlled street. So where they get added, it's another state decision. We have to go through the state to get permission to add.
I did have that discussion with the man from the state when he was here visiting us, and I went over there with him. And his comment to me was, he doesn't see any problem as long as there's a sidewalk on the other side. Okay. That it can't go to a non-sidewalked place. Mm-hmm. So as long as, and we have a little bit of a problem where those roads don't go straight through on Bayard, you know what I mean? They're right, those things. So I'm not sure how, we may have to concrete, I use that word loosely, brick those or something, make them a spot that you can stop on.
Mark, I have a question. What is a single direction crosswalk? Is that where there's
It
not?
goes left and right. It goes across Laurel Street,
no,
for instance, but doesn't go across Bayard.
Okay.
In other words, it's one,
I don't think it's
instead
well
of having
phrased. It's a single side of the intersection.
we want to make a box instead of a straight line. Okay. The only thing that was not directly approved was our final request, which is still underway, and that be that regarding enforcement, stricter enforcement, and they suggested that we have a meeting which is planned with the police chief. It would have been done by now if it wasn't for the snowstorm. The snowstorm, of course, put the whole city in a little bit of chaos so that we weren't able to meet as of yet. But there will be a meet coming up regarding our request that enforcement be enhanced. And I think part of that enhancement, by the way, is not just a number of stops, but the number of tickets that are given during those stops. I think we want to change the current ratio. I think this was our thought, from 35-65 to 65-35, because it's currently 65 warnings and 35 tickets. So that's where we are with that. Any questions about that? That's sort of old stuff, but just wanted to let you know that where we are on it. New business. There's a little bit of history here, too. This is a request from Commissioner Good that we weigh in on the sidewalk news boxes. So everybody knows what we're talking about, the boxes that are everywhere now. Like many things in our town, there's a history. You know what, I'm gonna let you, do you want me to give the history and then you give the research you've done? You can. All right, the history is very simple. Back when I was with the Homeowners Association, I think I was vice president, it would have been 2015 or 16, the lines of those darn boxes was getting longer and longer and longer. You couldn't get to the post office without going around them. It was an obstacle course. So the Homeowners Association got a petition together and came to the Board of Commissioners and asked that they be restricted or dealt with in some way. At that time, and it was a different city manager and everything else, the consensus to us was, well, there's nothing much we can do, because the minute we had put it on the agenda, all the newspapers and all the people that have a financial interest in those boxes have complained that their constitutional rights to have news on public sidewalks is being infringed upon. So at that point, I don't know, maybe COVID came up, something came up, and it didn't go any further than that. Now, last year, when I became a commissioner, one of the first things that I asked if we could look at that again. And I met with Mr. Tedder and Mr. Miller and myself and Suzanne, had them at least minimize the numbers and the places. And in several places, we eliminated them completely, and other places, we got rid of the metal ones. Now, the empty ones. By getting rid of, I mean, we just collected them and put them out behind City Hall and said, if you guys want them, come and get them. And we didn't take the Cape Gazettes, we didn't take Camp Rehoboth's newsletter, we didn't take the ones that are actually being used, where people are actually picking up, even the freebies, the Chamber of Commerce stuff, we left all of those. And we only removed these ones that probably put their boxes there, put a couple of papers in, and never have come back. Or the ones that are always empty, like the Coast. The Coast was always empty. So those were removed. And we didn't get any complaints about them, about removing the ones that we removed. However, in the meantime, we had said that we were going to make some actual regulations so that it wasn't a haphazard, so that Mr. Tedder could point to regulations when XYZ newspaper wants to come and put a box in or give a freebie. So nothing much has happened because, quite honestly, it got pushed to the back because there was so much else going on. And in the meantime, they sort of like bred, and they've gotten more and more and more. They're like rabbits. And if you go to the post office, I think we went from 12 to maybe 6, and now we're back to 12 again. And Suzanne particularly, Commissioner Good, has made some very good points that it's not just unsightly, it's actually causing problem. Handicapped folks can't use the handicapped spots in some places. People open their car doors and hit them. They're right on top of the benches. Dogs pee on them and they smell bad when the summer's over. I mean, they're just horrible. There's nothing good to be said about them. So here's where we are. Would we be interested in asking the Board of Commissioners to allow us to draw up some set of regulations that we could then bring back to the Board of Commissioners to somehow regulate these things? Some of the thoughts were maybe we charge for them a small amount, $50 a year or something, just so they need to come back and realize either you pay or you remove your box. And if they're not paid, we can remove it. It doesn't have to be a money-making thing, but it has to get their attention, the owners of these boxes, that they have to pay attention, keep them full or take them away. So are we okay with asking, the first step would be to going to the Board of Commissioners and asking that we be allowed to take that as a topic of discussion?
Yeah, I would support it because I think as you walk around the city, to your point, they're multiplying. They block sidewalks. They are difficult when you're in a wheelchair, when you're pushing a baby carriage, when you're just walking with children. I think it'd be a worthwhile topic to discuss. One thing I don't agree with is putting it on the boardwalk. So that's a whole nother discussion, because I think the boardwalk should be pristine and not have more junk on it. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, I would pursue it.
I suggest this opens up the city to a bigger problem. The city has, there's language in the city code that says you can't put anything on or over that obstructs the sidewalk. That includes these paper stands, it includes planters, it includes cars being parked over the sidewalk. I think the city may run into a little storm if they selectively pick on these paper boxes, whatever you want to call them. But I think it's in the best interest of the city, to look at what the code says. The code's very clear, but there's no enforcement of any of it. People put planters, walk down First Street on the north side. People put it's like a 4-foot sidewalk with 2-foot planters. There's just no control over anything.
But I think, Cliff, when you, as we've talked about many times, you got to start somewhere, maybe small. You can't do it all at one time.
But you're leaving the door open for the people with these newspaper boxes to come back and sue the city
It's
Well,
just
what
not
can they-
gonna, it's,
I mean-
that's just not gonna happen.
Well, let's,
Well, you say
What do they
that,
sue you for?
Then we put, then we- then the city
selective
puts it-
enforcement.
Then the city puts it back.
We're not saying they can't be there, we're just saying they have to be in that
No,
spot or
what-
this spot.
Yeah, but what is wrong with the city saying, yes, we're going to enforce the code? If you want to put something on the sidewalk, we're going to say yes or no before you do it.
folks, we've slipped into the discussion,
Right,
so
okay.
really, I just want to make sure that we're okay having the discussion first. And we will, we'll repeat all of this and have a discussion
Yep.
of whether we need to expand it to other things or not. But for now, let me just go to the Board of Commissioners and get their okay on the discussion. Fair enough?
I mean, look, honestly, from my perspective, I don't think this is a great use of our time. I think this has been discussed ad nauseum. I don't think any of us here have a particular expertise that's better or worse than the commissioners. I listened to the commission discussion the last time, and I thought the city staff was directed to go and figure out the legal case and implement something. And I'm not sure, and I'm not sure that's happened.
Nothing.
So I'm
It
not
has
sure
not.
that we are going to come up with anything different than the commissioners came up with before, if the city staff and so I think we could say, we think that, you know, they should go ahead and do what the commission said the last time.
Well, if the commission doesn't want us to talk about it, they'll tell us not to talk about it. But I think if they tell us, yes, we'd rather you guys handle this, bring back a suggestion. As a commissioner, I turn to my commissioner hat, I'd be grateful for someone else to do all the legwork on it and just bring a suggestion that I could live with.
Be happy to help with that.
Okay, so,
Do you, coming back to the comment about, Cliff's comment about potential legal issues, if the commissioners are supposed to be looking into the legal, we might as well not discuss this if we don't know what the legal issues are that Cliff brought up. I don't think any of these people that dump these boxes are gonna give the city a hard time, but the point that I'm making is, if there's a legal issue that might be involved, then it's in our best interest to know that before we even start discussing it.
and hopefully, you know, his wife had a baby, but hopefully he has done, at least Evan's been here the whole time that this has been discussed. So I will certainly invite him to be part of our discussion if we're tasked with having a discussion. Because he would be able to tell us the rules and so.
But the legal issues aside, all of these obstructions put on the sidewalk are safety hazards.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that we should be a wider conversation to
Right.
involve everything, and we can discuss that too.
That includes carpeting and, you know, and everything else that goes on the sidewalks.
Well, speaking of sidewalks, the last thing on my agenda for today, the city has budgeted $300,000 for sidewalk repairs. Now, typically, as you all know, we're responsible, the homeowner is responsible to repair the sidewalk. The theory being way back when that the reason sidewalks need repair is usually because something the homeowner did. They either planted a tree, or they put a truck across it, or, you know, they banged it up somehow. So typically for years, it has been the homeowner's responsibility. Now we have $300,000 in the budget to spend. There's many things that we can do, that we can take one street and do all the sidewalks over again. But I suggest that we consider something that's more productive, which would be to use that $300,000 as a seed money to offer some sort of cost-sharing program with all the homeowners. So that if a homeowner has a bad sidewalk, we can say to them, and again, I'm not putting words in the committee's mouth, but we could say to them, we will contribute X number of or a percentage, 50% towards the new sidewalk, if you do the other 50% on the condition that you use our contractor so that we can have them all done at a better price for everybody. And hopefully, instead of just doing one or two streets with our $300,000, maybe we can have all of the streets done with our $300,000 by having the owners contribute. And I think as an owner, my sidewalk's not great. If somebody said, do it now and you get it half price, I'd jump at that. So, is that something that we can bring to the commissioners? You're all okay with it?
I'd add just
Yep.
one caveat,
Sure.
that it does not apply to new home construction.
Well, they get new sidewalks anyhow. They're responsible for that anyhow.
I'm just saying, you're not paying for a new
Oh, no, no,
homeowner's
oh, right, good,
sidewalks.
excellent point. Yes, excellent point, yeah. Yes, we're talking about repair. We should just from now on call them repair of existing sidewalks, yes.
Or replace.
Or, right, repair or replace, right.
So a homeowner who has had a sidewalk in front of their house for years, they've received multiple letters from the city regarding the fact that they need to repair the sidewalk because that's the procedure. The procedure can take up to 90 days from the time it's turned in to all of the notifications and all that business. So if we agree as a committee that we're willing to say to the city, to the whole city, fix your sidewalk and we'll pay for half of it, are we opening up a Pandora's box for running out of money by the time anybody who needs to get a sidewalk fixed? Is it a priority? Is it first come, first served? In other words, if we're going to agree to that, we need to know exactly what those stipulations are, or
Again, this is the discussion. I mean, this is, what you're bringing up is exactly the discussion that I want to have after they've told us whether they want us to have a
All
discussion.
we're doing is asking for permission to discuss this.
Right, and then what you're bringing up is
We'll have
exactly,
to
and what
draft
Cliff
it.
brings up
Okay.
is, you
And then
know,
we'll have to draft a
a perfect
suggestion
example.
and a.
so
yes,
your comment to give them 50% of their
I
cost.
just made that number up. Maybe it's 40, maybe it's 30.
Okay.
Depends on
We're
how
just
many of them.
discussing. I'm with
The
you.
steps here, Mark, are that we are asking for permission to consider this.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark threw in his own personal opinion.
got it.
Which
I
is
got
not
it.
necessarily the final suggestion.
No, of
I think
course
it's a great
not,
one,
no.
but.
And you're absolutely right about how much money we have. Maybe we do it over 3 years, you know, maybe it's 300 a year. Maybe we do it by neighborhood,
we're
maybe,
gonna
you know,
discuss it.
right, maybe we'll do Country Club this year and do South Rehoboth another year, you know.
I'm for discussing.
Okay, all right. Anything else on that? All right. Does the public have anything? Yes, Hoyt, please.
So let me start by saying, Hoyt Decker, I live on Laurel Street, okay. I want to talk a little bit about an issue you just brought up about the meeting with the police. I consider that element of what you're doing to be very important. And I'm assuming, please correct me if I'm wrong, that is going to take place in the context of one of your upcoming meetings. Is that right?
No, it's not. It's going to be a private meeting with a representative or two of the commissioners and so forth and so on.
Okay, well, I mean, my statement then is, I think that should
Wait,
be.
the results will go to a public meeting.
I think there needs to be some opportunity for the public to participate.
Here we are. I mean.
No. At the time you're meeting with the police department. I'm sorry, I think that needs to be something that's on the public record. And to that point, I'm just going to throw this out at you. I saw this on TV last night. The city of Smyrna is buying one of these damn standalone enforcement camera things that's out on Route 1 now. It might be too expensive for us to consider, but hey, that would be a wonderful addition. I'm the guy, I live on Laurel Street. I've told you this before. They're going to church, they get their communion, a zoom, 75 miles an hour to get to the, Dogfish or wherever they're going. All right, thank you.
And maybe I misspoke a little bit. Before anything is adopted by the Board of Commissioners, it'll be brought to a public meeting.
I understand that part of it. I'm talking about the discussion itself.
Right.
I think there needs to be public input.
Okay.
My feeling is, Hoyt, call Chief Banks, arrange an appointment, and share with him whatever your feelings are.
I've thought about doing that, thank you.
We can all do that, and he's welcome to making appointments with anyone.
All right, committee, is there anything else from anybody on the committee that you'd like to bring, other thoughts or anything? Anybody?
Two-second thought about,
Sure.
I hope everybody noticed during the snowstorm that we had bump outs. We had curb bump outs temporarily. Because they plowed all the snow into the curb bump outs, which, not a great way to experiment with that. But also, I mean, I certainly noticed tons of spots that no cars drive on that are paved and everything else. And that, again, that's that's an interesting way to consider what a streetscape could look like. There was a time, I've got a picture of it, looking down King Charles, where we had our median in the middle of the street, all the way down the street. It was beautiful. It was great. So, again, to thinking about how we affect infrastructure and make it more pedestrian and bike-friendly.
And you mentioned King Charles. That's not we've only temporarily put that aside because Evan's on maternity leave. Of course. As soon as Evan gets back, we'll have King Charles back on the agenda again for further discussion. All right. If there's nothing else, the next meeting date looks like the second Thursday is April 9th. Hopefully that works for everybody. And if there's nothing else and nothing from the public, we'll call for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Hoyt. Thank you, Frank.
Go faster.